What if being a truly great leader, what if it comes at a steep personal cost? Today, we're going to dig into the hidden price that some of the most effective leaders out there actually have to pay.
Yeah, it's a real paradox, right? And it gets right to the heart of what it means to lead in our ridiculously complex world. We're always celebrating leaders who can just do it all. But what if that very ability is the thing that's quietly breaking them down?
Well, a brand new study, just published in the Journal of Business Research, puts a huge spotlight on this exact problem. It found that a very celebrated, very effective style of leadership comes with a significant and, often totally unseen personal cost for the managers who use it.
So the researchers use this framework called the conservation of resources theory. Look, all it really means is that we all have this limited pool of mental and emotional energy, right? And when we're constantly draining those resources without ever refilling the tank, we burn out. It's that simple. And the study found this super clear chain reaction. A specific leadership style ramps up the mental effort required. This constant mental strain then spills over, causing emotional exhaustion, and the final result, a direct hit to the leader's own well-being.
And we are not talking about a minor issue here. The study puts it so starkly. They describe it as being thrust into a whirlpool of cognitive strain and psychological distress. Wow! That's a powerful image, isn't it? It just underscores that this isn't about having a tough week at the office. This is a systemic, continuous drain on a leader's mental health.
So, this naturally leads us to the big question, doesn't it? What is this style of leadership that's so great for teams, but so draining for the leaders themselves?
It's called Ambidextrous Leadership. And the name itself is a pretty big clue. It's about being able to use both hands, metaphorically speaking. It's the ultimate both-and approach, and it requires this constant, mentally exhausting balancing act.
Okay, so this breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got what they call opening behaviors. This is all about exploration. It's fostering innovation, encouraging your team to take risks, making it okay to make mistakes. And then on the other side, you have closing behaviors. This is about something called exploitation in business strategy. Now that word sounds kind of harsh, but it just means capitalizing on what you already do well. It's about efficiency, hitting goals, and ensuring consistency. A truly ambidextrous leader has to be able to switch between these two totally contradictory modes all the time.
And this focus on the individual? Well, it's not just a gut feeling. A recent systematic review found that over half, 51%, of all research on this topic zooms right in on the individual level. And that makes total sense, because while this leadership style impacts the entire organization, the cognitive juggling, that mental strain we were talking about, that all happens inside the leader's head. It brings the story right back to that personal burden.
So, we have this incredibly valuable insight into the psychological cost of a specific leadership style, an insight that could genuinely help managers everywhere. But, and this is a huge but, there's a problem.
What if this crucial knowledge, and, let's be honest, countless other studies just like it, never actually makes it out of those dense academic journals and into the hands of the managers who desperately need it? What if it's just left behind?
And that brings us to this really powerful, kind of sad concept called research debris. It's a perfect metaphor for what happens when this massive gap exists between academic research and actual professional practice, leaving all this valuable knowledge just floating around, never making a real impact.
The formal definition here is pretty clear. It's that mountain of academic work that, for a whole bunch of reasons, just doesn't connect with the real world. It's seen as irrelevant, it's too hard to translate into plain English, or it's just never even seen by the people it's supposed to help. And the reason this debris piles up, it's systemic. Academics and practitioners are pretty much operating in what you could call different thought worlds. For academics, the primary logic is rigor. The time scale is slow and deliberate, and the key incentive, publication. For practitioners, on the other hand, the logic is relevance. The time scale is fast and responsive, and the incentive, solving the problem that's on fire right now. These two worlds are just fundamentally misaligned.
So, is this divide just an unfortunate reality we have to accept? Not at all. The story is now shifting from just identifying the problem to actually building a solution. Turns out there's a roadmap for bridging this divide and turning all that potential debris into real-world impact.
And hey, this isn't just some vague idea. There are concrete strategies. This roadmap includes things like deep partnering, where academics and practitioners actually collaborate long-term, using knowledge brokers, people who can act as translators between these two worlds, and adopting frameworks that practitioners already know and use, making the knowledge way more accessible from the get-go. To really get why this is such a big deal, let's look at how things have traditionally been done. At the very end of a long research paper, you'd find this little limitation section. And it's often this passive, generic statement that basically says, well, this is all theoretical, maybe someone else will figure out how to use it later. This right here is a primary cause of research debris.
Okay, now compare that to a new proactive approach, a Pathways to Impact section. This reframing doesn't just state a limitation, it actively calls out the risk of the work becoming debris and then proposes specific, actionable ways to prevent that from happening. It completely changes the conversation from passive observation to active responsibility. It's a game changer.
And just like that, we've come full circle, haven't we? We started with a very specific personal problem, the hidden cost of great leadership. That then led us to a much bigger systemic problem, this vast amount of valuable knowledge that just goes unused. And finally, it brought us to a really hopeful conclusion, a clear path forward for making sure that knowledge actually matters.
So we're left with this final, really powerful question. It's not just about what we know, is it? It's about how we connect that knowledge to the people who need it most. How do we make sure that the insights from today's research don't just orbit as debris, but actually land as the wisdom that builds better leaders, healthier teams, and stronger organizations for tomorrow? That's a question worth asking. Thanks for joining me.